Yeah, good morning all. It's Les from Future FX here. Just needing to take you through the latest updates to Cost Averager. And I'll just bring up my screen. What I'm going to go through is the last three settings here, the max pairs, the correlated pairs, and the pair priority, and exactly what they mean. This is still code that I'm still trying to perfect. I wouldn't say it's 100% perfected yet, but the max pairs is simply what it sounds like. No matter how many pairs you have the software on, it can't trade on more than two pairs at any one time. Okay, or three or four or one or whatever you like to set that at. The correlated pairs, you have to personally type in the pairs that you consider closely correlated. So if you were trading, let's say AUD CHF, then you'd want to type in all the other pairs that you have the software on that include AUD or CHF in the pairs. All right, so if you have the software on another pair and it shares a currency with this pair, then you should put those pairs in here because they will be fairly closely correlated. That's not 100% how correlation works, but it's good enough for this filter. All right, so the idea here is that you can have the software on a lot of different pairs. And the reason you want to do that is because if you only have it on one or two pairs, there is a chance that the trends won't line up. So in this case, we've got a sell and two buys. So the writing's red because they aren't lined up, meaning that you won't get any trades on this pair until such time as they do line up, and then it can potentially trade. Okay, so that the issue is if you only have the software on one or two pairs, you could have several days in a row where they don't line up, and therefore you won't get any trades. So to avoid that, you can either select different pairs every morning, selecting a couple of pairs that do have the trends lined up, so you do get trades that day. And that's how I have previously always used this software. Just 5 minutes every morning, I'd select a couple of pairs I wanted it to trade that day, and I'd make sure they were turned off and the other pairs were turned. Make sure those pairs were turned on and that all the other pairs were turned off, and then I'd let cost average do its thing for the day. So the idea behind these settings is to automate that process. So that 5 or 10 minutes I was doing every morning, the idea with these three settings is to automate that process. And so now with these settings, you can put the software on multiple pairs. You might have the software on 8 or 10 pairs. And that way, at least one of those pairs is going to be, the very, very good chance that at least one of those pairs is going to have the time frame trends lined up every day and that it can trade. But then it's got the max pairs filter and the correlated pairs filter to stop you end up say you're not trading on more than two pairs, to stop you trading on all 8 or 10 pairs at once, and to stop you trading on too many pairs at once that are closely correlated. The problem with trading closely correlated pairs is it greatly increases your risk. Let's say you're trading AUD JPY, Euro JPY, and USD JPY. So you're trading that three pairs and the yen goes against you. More than likely, you're going to lose money on all three pairs. Whereas if you're trading three pairs that weren't correlated, one yen pair, one that didn't, and two others that didn't have yen in it, if yen went against you, sure, you still might lose on one pair, but that's a lot better than losing on three pairs. So that's the problem with trading on closely correlated pairs. That brings us into pair priority. So I've divided this up into three. By default, this will be on nothing. meaning that all the pairs are going to have the same amount of priority. And what I mean by pair priority is, let's say, in this example, I have one pair trading, meaning there's a second pair that I could trade if all the other conditions were met. Now, let's say we had AUD yen, Euro yen, and USD yen, all with their trends lined up, all wanting to take out a trade. They've all got the same chance of trading. Okay, if you have the pair priority set to nothing like that, then the chances of this one trading and this one trading, this one trading, they all have the same chance of getting their trade placed. With pair priority, you can prioritize the pairs by high, by medium, or as low. So you have three choices. You need to type that in, just like I did, all lowercase. So if you have AUD yen as a high priority, Euro yen as a medium priority, and USD yen as a low priority, then it will be the AUD yen pair that gets picked to fill in the second pair space. All right, so that is how those are meant to work. Okay, and when I said it's not 100% perfected yet, there is still a slight chance, and this will depend, this chance will be greater the more pairs you have the software on, that two pairs could end up with the same priority, and they could both want to try and trade at exactly the same time. And there is a random generation in there as well. But if that random generation was close to each other, then two pairs could trade at exactly the same time. Meaning that if you had one pair trading already, and these two pairs, just out of coincidence, had the same priority, were ready to trade, and that random feature in the coding ended up being similar, then they could both trade, meaning you would end up with three pairs trading and also two closely correlated pairs trading. So it's not going to happen often, but at the moment, I haven't perfected the code enough to stop that happening. So what you will need to do is, if you have the software on three different yen pairs, you should give one high priority, the other medium priority, and the other low priority. Okay, and that will minimize the risk of getting an extra pair trading greatly. So you must do that. And then you might have, say, 3 GBP pairs with the software on it. You want to give one high priority, one medium priority, and one low priority. So as you can see, it would be best not to have more than 3 closely correlated pairs at once, so that you can just prioritize low, medium, and high. And that should keep everyone on the straight and narrow. So then, you shouldn't have to do that 5 or 10 minutes every morning. The software should be able to look at the 8 or 10 pairs you have the software on, and the first 2 that have, all the conditions met, that will start trading on. When that trade group gets closed out, it will look to take another trade out of whichever ones else's are available. Anyway, I hope that made sense, but that's how these 3 pairs, these 3 settings work, and how you can use them, to more automate this software. Right, cheers for listening. I will leave it to you and talk to you again later.